owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present, as well as to the emerging leaders. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who may be present here today. Hello everyone, my name is Harsiddhi Pancholi. I am from Empower You Wellness, and I am an emotion code, body code, and a belief code practitioner. Today I'm thrilled to be joined by two incredible pioneers in this field, Dr. Bradley Nelson and Jean Nelson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're excited to be here.
Yep.
Thank you so much. For those new to their work, Dr. Bradley Nelson is a chiropractic physician and a medical intuitive. He's one of the foremost experts in the emerging field of bioenergetic medicine and energy psychology. He's also the visionary behind the Discover Healing, the author of the Emotion Code and the Body Code, and the creator of the Belief Code. He's dedicated his life to developing simple, powerful tools to help individuals worldwide to release the blocks and access their body's natural healing abilities. Today, his techniques have a global reach of over 12,000 practitioners across 80 plus countries. Jean Nelson, his life partner and vice president at Discover Healing, has been vital to share this work around the world, building a vibrant community of practitioners and clients. Together, they are creating a worldwide movement in energy healing. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So, Dr. Brad, we had an interview in 2021.
Right.
Yes, and we are here again in person. So that's the power of manifestation. I really wanted to do this live at some point.
Yeah.
So thank you, and I'm glad the universe put this together for us.
Yeah.
And in that interview, we dived into emotion code and the body code and your experiences, with healing your body at a very young age through prayers and through alternative healers. So I know that, what got you to the path of emotion code and body code. But can you, for the viewers who do not know much about emotion and body code, can you briefly share what that modality is about, and also the core concept of heart wall?
Sure, absolutely. Well, so I was a computer programmer back starting in 1980. And so back in the early 80s, when computers were brand new, I had a business called the Computer Tutor, which consisted of one person, me. And I would go into people's offices that would they'd have a new computer and they wouldn't know what to do with it because there was no software back then, and I would write the software so they could use their computer. And so eventually becoming a doctor was really an answer to prayer. And when I got into practice, I had some experiences that gradually helped me to understand that within each patient of mine, there was a computer. We call it the subconscious mind, and that computer within each one of us has all the answers about what's really wrong with us and what we need. And it's a computer, I believe, that is so powerful it's beyond our ability to actually comprehend, because it's divine in nature. And I gradually learned more and more about how to communicate with this computer inside of my patients. And it enabled me to, on a routine basis, help people who had been given up on by the Western medical profession as being hopeless, to get those people well. And so I got to a point in my practice where I wasn't really afraid to take on any kind of case, because I knew that their own subconscious mind had the answers. And so one of the things that I learned was that the reason why people lose their health is because of imbalances that happen. And imbalances can be a whole variety of things. Imbalances can be emotional baggage, trapped emotions. It can be infections of some kind. It can be some kind of nutritional deficiencies. It could be dehydration. It could be toxins from whatever, all kinds of things. We live in a very toxic world now. It can be disconnections between the spirit and the physical body, and on and on and on. So as time went on, in my practice, I always had a computer there because I was a computer guy. And as I'm working on people and finding imbalances that I didn't know existed before, I was recording those in this system of mine and creating what we now call the body code. And the body code is really the 6 different categories of imbalances that create all of our illnesses. And one of those categories has to do with emotional baggage. And I found that the emotional baggage that we have from being bullied as a child, or going through a difficult divorce or breakups or difficult work situations or whatever it might be, we all have emotional baggage. And what I found was that emotional baggage, or what we call trapped emotions, literally the energy of those emotional experiences that we have had that did not get processed somehow, that is still in our bodies, manifesting as physical pain, depression, anxiety, phobias, panic attacks, PTSD, eating disorders, all kinds of issues. I found that emotional baggage was the #1 most common underlying reason for people's symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional. In fact, I found that every disease process that I saw and that I've seen in 36 years always has an emotional component to it. So if you're diagnosed with some kind of a disease, you may be doing everything else right, but if you're missing the emotional component, then everything else may not be enough, right? And so eventually I realized this needed to go out to the world, and so I left practice in 2004, 20 years ago, and wrote a book, The Emotion Code, published it in 2007, and then about a year later, and of course now that book's in many languages around the world, and part of what we do is we travel around and teach people about this all over the world.
Yeah.
And
I know you've just come from Japan, isn't it?
we just came from Japan, before that Taiwan, before that Kazakhstan, before that we were in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and but we travel all over the world because this message has to get out to the world, because there's so much sickness, there's so much suffering in the world, and the biggest reason for all of that suffering is just emotional baggage. And the beautiful thing about the emotion code is that anyone can learn how to do it. Kids can learn how to do it. It's simple, it's not difficult. Well, about a year after the emotion code book came out, one morning I woke up and my mind was full of instruction, and the instruction was, you need to take everything you've learned about natural healing and put it into a self-study course that anyone can learn and make it available to everyone, everywhere. And I remember thinking, are you sure about this? Sounds like it might require some work. And it did. So that was the body code, and it took a year to create the first version. And back then, the body code was a big box with manuals and DVDs and CDs, and now it's an app that you download, and it's really an amazing thing. But the body code, essentially what it is really is, remember the Rosetta Stone? They discovered in Egypt this big kind of an obelisk, and it had a number of different languages written on it. And it was the same translation on all sides. I think it was Greek and then Egyptian and maybe Hebrew or something, some other language, I can't remember. But that enabled them to actually figure out what the Egyptian language was, because now they could correlate it. Well, what the body code is it's like the Rosetta Stone for the subconscious mind. It gives the subconscious mind a way to tell the user, which could be you or could be someone else, what's really going on. And the subconscious mind, it gives the subconscious mind a voice so that it can tell you if you're deficient in a certain thing, or if you've got a misaligned bone or a problem with an organ or whatever it might be. It doesn't take the place of Western medicine. That's always going to be necessary and always going to be needed. But the thing is, most of the time, most people don't need a drug or surgery. Most of the time, people just have imbalances that they need to remove, and then they can feel better and function better, and that's really what this is about. And then the belief code, did you ask me about that?
Not yet.
The heart wall.
Right.
The heart wall.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So the heart wall is a really interesting thing. We had an experience,
Right. Well, actually, I'll tell about that.
Yeah.
I had a dream one time, and we were staying at this hotel. I woke up early in the morning, and I had this dream, and it was one of those dreams that I knew was really important, that I needed to understand. So I woke Brad up and I said, "Hey, will you help me to understand this dream?"
And I said, okay.
So I started telling him the story of the dream, and right in the middle of discovering these imbalances that I had, which was what the dream was about. They were all issues about my life that I needed to correct. Brad started to have a vision.
Yeah, it was the room that I was in suddenly disappeared, and instead I'm seeing this unbelievably beautiful hardwood floor, and this was high def 3D, and I'd never had anything like this happen to me before, but this was very real. And at the same time that I'm seeing this, I have this understanding that comes into my mind that my wife's heart is underneath this floor, and I had no idea what this meant. But this lasted for several minutes, and I told Jean what I was seeing and understanding, and she didn't know what it meant either. So, you know, we said a prayer and asked God to help us figure this out. And then I started asking questions, and we get answers from the subconscious mind, primarily using muscle testing. The subconscious mind is a binary computer, and it will answer questions. And if you're testing a certain muscle, if an answer is coming back from the subconscious, that muscle will be strong when it's a yes answer and weak if it's a no answer. So that's what we were doing with her, asking questions.
Right, we're figuring out what a heart wall is. And we came to find out over time that a lot of people actually have a heart wall. Yeah. It was really a significant thing to discover. For me personally, it meant that I was able to overcome shyness. I was able to start feeling more connected with people. I was able to feel like I belonged with everyone, like I was a part of everyone, which is a beautiful feeling if you haven't felt that before.
So come back just a second, what we found was that this vision was representing a wall made ultimately of emotional baggage that was surrounding her heart.
Right.
That had been built up for many years.
It was making it hard for me to connect. It was making it hard for me to feel happy emotions, and so consequently I was able to feel the negative things, and my mind would go to the negative more often. And I wanted to be happy. I wanted to feel good.
Does, yeah.
Right, just like everyone. So it was a beautiful thing to get rid of that heart wall.
And
Sorry, I can vouch for that. When I cleared my heart wall, my life changed. You know, where I am today and the paths that I've chosen for myself all started happening after I cleared my own heart wall. So it is amazing.
And the heart wall is just a result. It's really a result of negative things that happen in our lives, just experiences that we have where we feel like we want to protect ourselves. So we just subconsciously put up a wall.
Yeah.
And people actually even say that, oh, I had to put up a wall.
Yeah.
You know, but generally we don't realize that it's very real.
Well,
So-
and you know, if you feel heartache, you know, we now know the heart is a second brain. And so if you're feeling really hurt or deeply grieved, you'll feel a physical sensation here, like there's an elephant sitting on your chest, or like you can't breathe. And when that's going on, the subconscious mind will build a wall. And initially, when we were shown this, because we didn't figure this out, it was shown to us. Really, it came from above. My first thought was, well, you know, Jean's had some other things. You know, maybe this. She's probably the only person in the world that has this. But we now know that about 93% of people have this, right?
Unless you're living in the mountains, yeah.
Exactly, in a cave, maybe.
In a cave, yes.
You probably still have one.
True. Now that's amazing. Like, you know, heart wall is the key to most of our issues being resolved, and that's what, you know, when my clients come as well, that's what I tell them, that we need to focus on the heart wall, and then most of the issues tend to resolve with that alone.
Right, because you really want to live from your heart. That's your best life, when you can live from your heart, rather than just always living in your head.
Well, and when
difference.
and when you find your soulmate, for example, when you find love, it happens from this brain, not this brain. So many people are living in their heads, and so they're kind of going through the motions of life, not really connecting with others and not really manifesting what they're capable of. And so taking down that wall is so critical.
Absolutely, yeah. The amount of like disconnect and emotional numbness one feels with heart wall, I've been there, I've experienced it, so I know what that is like. All right, so now let's dive into your latest work with the belief code. What made you realize the importance of this addition, and how does releasing these belief systems enhance the work we've already done with emotions and the body?
Well, it's interesting. When we first started teaching back in about 1998, we went up to the Pacific Northwest in the U.S., and there were a couple of our students there who took the work that we were doing, and they started working with other people and found that sometimes people would have some kind of a belief that had gotten stuck in their body, from sometimes many years before. So they developed this methodology that they called three-dimensional therapy. And they always knew that it was going to be part of our line of healing methods. And finally, we were able to put that together and incorporate it into the work that we're doing. And so now we call it the belief code. And what the belief code is if you can think about, if you can imagine, let's say that your father tells you over and over when you're a kid, you're never going to amount to anything. You're never going to amount to anything. Well, the subconscious mind doesn't make any judgments. It just draws conclusions. And so it may eventually decide, well, okay, we're never going to amount to anything. And then that becomes a statement in the subconscious mind's operating system. And so that can stop you then from creating the life that you're capable of. And we all have these negative beliefs in our subconscious minds, and they can actually form into what we call negative belief systems. And a negative belief system is kind of like a tree with branches, the negative beliefs, a trunk, and leaves like the negative beliefs, and then you have a trunk and branches, the limiting
Negative
beliefs.
programs, negative beliefs.
Faulty core belief, like the roots of the
even
tree.
a faulty identity. It's like the environment that you grow up in sometimes can.
Nature versus nurture.
Yeah. But a lot of these beliefs actually come from our own internal dialogue. They don't always come from a parent or from a teacher or somebody like that. It's oftentimes the way that we see ourselves, the way that we interpret things, our own perception.
And sometimes it's just things that happen to us because the subconscious mind is always trying to keep us safe and is always looking for correlations, right? And so it draws these faulty conclusions, and then we wonder sometimes why life is so difficult, or why we can't seem to get ahead, or why we can't make life work better for us. And so we use the power of the subconscious mind in the belief code to identify very rapidly all the negative belief systems that consist in a particular tree, if you will. And then we're able to just delete those because they all exist as discrete energies in the subconscious. And so identifying them is the hardest part, and then getting rid of them is actually really easy. And it's transforming the work that we're doing because it's enabling us finally to get at the deepest causes of these physical, mental, and emotional symptoms that sometimes can be difficult to get rid of. Most of the time, the body code, the emotion code, of course, as you know, are incredibly powerful and work really, really well. Once in a while, you'll get a case where something's not going away, and physical symptoms can easily be caused by these negative belief systems. It's really wild. I mean, for example, maybe you have a problem with relationships, or with weight, or with some kind of an addiction, and going to the belief code, or with money, absolutely.
Making enough money,
yeah.
That's a big one for people.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun. The belief code's fast. It's easy. Well,
is.
Right?
Yes, it's amazing, and especially how quickly you can, get down to certain
Right.
beliefs. It's amazing. And
People will know consciously if they have an issue.
They do.
And so they will come to a belief code practitioner oftentimes because they know, I have a problem with, relationships or whatever. They know that they have a problem with intimacy or something, and they want to overcome that. So they can work specifically on that issue, and you can really get targeted to find those vibes, if you will, or those. All of it is really about frequency and vibration. When you really get down to the science of it.
Quantum physics, yes.
Right, that's right.
But it's lightning fast compared to how it used to be, because now we have thousands of beliefs to choose from, and the subconscious mind knows what all those beliefs are, and it knows where they are in the belief code, which is just amazing, but that's how it works. And
And you can get really close to that vibe and delete
Change
it.
that frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And have you come across where the belief system is inherited or part of the belief in the belief system is inherited?
yes, belief systems can be inherited or part of the belief system. Yeah, you can have, they're not very common, but you can have what we call a parallel belief system, where you might have one belief system that's inherited from, who knows, some ancestors. And then you might, right next to that, have another tree, okay, that is your own. And so then you can release those both. And it doesn't matter if it's inherited, it just is a little bit different, but identifying those can also be done. So we believe this is really the most, these three methodologies we think are the most advanced methods of energy healing that are available right now. And the funny thing is, as when I was in practice, when we had our practice together, rather than things becoming more complex, as time went on, they actually became more simple. And that's the beautiful thing about the body code. I often tell people, the dumber you are, the better this works. In other words, sometimes you need to set aside all of, yeah, set aside all the things that everything you've ever known about the body, because energy medicine is a completely different way of working on the body. And if you have preconceived notions about what something, is going to be caused by or whatever, well, you're probably going to be surprised. Because we know that from the work that we've done, that anything can cause anything, right? And you never know what it's going to be. So, but that makes it fun.
I still use this in all my sessions. I was like, I just work here.
Right.
Anything can cause
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
we
your
had
body.
a T-shirt made once that said, "I just work here."
Awesome. Jean, could you share a memorable success story where you witnessed the transformative power of belief code in your own life?
Oh, gosh, you should have asked me that ahead of time so I could think about it. Oh,
I'm sure there are many instances, but anything that
While you're
stands out?
thinking, let me share one. When we were putting the belief code together, we didn't know if it was going to work on animals, right? We knew that it would work on people, but we'd never actually experimented with animals. We know that the emotion code, of course, works with animals. And all of our almost 14,000 practitioners now have had to work with 5 animals each, right? Because we know that if they work with 5 animals, 2 or 3 of those animals, it's going to be mind-blowing what is going to happen. So our son has this dog, and this dog's name is Freya, and we love Freya. Her nickname when she was a baby was Kisses, because she licks constantly. And I don't know if you've ever been around a dog like this. I mean, this dog licking all the time, just relentlessly.
incessantly, yeah.
And incessantly, so annoying, really. And we had tried releasing different things, but we'd never really been able to make an impact. So as soon as the belief code was done, and we just launched it last October, about a year ago, as soon as it was done, we tested it on her. And immediately we were taken to a belief, and the belief was, I have to do this to be accepted.
Okay.
We released, it was just one belief. There was not a whole collection, it was just one thing. We released that on her, and the licking dropped immediately by about 90%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it works on
So-
animals too.
She's still very affectionate, but she doesn't feel like she has to do that anymore.
No.
It's not a
It's really
compulsive habit.
nice.
It changed, it really changed her just immediately. And so that's one of the most powerful things we've seen. But also, we've seen cases where people have had physical pain that wouldn't go away, and then we find some belief system that is creating that, clear the belief system, and all of a sudden the pain's gone, Plus, oh gosh, yeah.
I know that.
And our practitioners around the world are having so much great success and seeing so many amazing things happen. You've probably got some great stories.
Absolutely. I've had a lot of things over the years I've seen, like, with emotion code, body code, and now the belief code, where it has changed people's lives.
Yeah.
Like, just the other day I had a client who was struggling at her work. She always found that environment to be very toxic. Like, somebody new came in and she was finding it very toxic, and she couldn't cope with it. And she took a belief code session with me to say, you know, why am I only getting such kind of people in my life?
Yeah.
And we worked through, and literally the next morning she's like, I don't feel so overwhelmed. The office is not that bad. So, you know, she's just changed her vibrations around it because we released the belief, and, you know,
Well,
it's just
right.
changed her life.
And like Nikola Tesla said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, right? And so that's what this is. And Albert Einstein also, as you know, said the medicine of the future will be the medicine of frequencies. And that's exactly what this is. We haven't known what he meant or what he was talking about. We haven't known what the medicine of frequencies, what's that going to look like? Well, it looks like this. This is it. And it's, yeah, I can't think of anything more fun.
Absolutely. I just love what I do, and thanks to you and Discover Healing, so for putting it together and making it so simple for us.
Yeah. Now,
All
did
right.
you ask me to tell a story about myself or about somebody else?
Whichever you prefer.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what I can remember. I oftentimes don't remember the phrases that we find. One time, though, I was working with this man who was a very successful guy, but I just was struggling and struggling to figure out. This was actually before the belief code was complete.
Yeah.
It was when we were still using T3, and so I had to be really intuitive to figure out what the statement was. And I remember the statement was, "I'm a fraud." And this is really interesting because, you know, this man wasn't a fraud at all, but he told himself that he was a fraud. He was telling himself internally that, you know, and we do this to ourselves.
Absolutely.
And I have found things in myself like that as well. And oftentimes the statements are kind of extreme, you know, like I'm evil, or I'm this, or I'm that, and they sound very judgmental. And so it's so great when you can get rid of these statements because they're just not true, you know, but somehow we've internalized these things because of the way that we judge ourselves.
Yeah.
And everyone does it at one point or another. Either we hear something enough that that a suggestion is made to the subconscious mind, and then we go, oh yeah, I am this. And we label ourselves. And it's so unkind.
Stick to it,
We're
yeah.
very unkind to ourselves at
Yeah.
times. So that's how these are formed.
Yeah, we're often way more unkind to ourselves, you know, like verbally with our internal dialogue, than we would ever dream of allowing anybody else to be, right?
And we don't realize the damage that we're doing because it's like we're setting it in stone with these words.
Yeah.
And I found
You know.
that this statement, like this also came up for one of my other clients who is a very successful entrepreneur. And sometimes that imposter syndrome just kicks in and you just start
Right.
feeling like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good to be able to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Now this is almost like a rapid fire round. So, you know, it's just some questions that we as practitioners have come up with and to get your understanding about
Okay.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of emotional, mental, or physical issues can these modalities help address?
Well, really the question would be what kind of mental or physical or emotional issues can't they address, really? Because the reality is the mental and physical and emotional issues that we have are caused by these imbalances that we suffer that can be found in the body code, and of course I include trapped emotions in there as well, but also by these negative belief systems that we have. And so, you know, when we had our practice, I used to tell my patients, look, if you've learned what you need to learn from this condition, and if God is willing, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to get better. Now,
If people are willing to get well,
Yeah.
sometimes people believe that they can't get well, or they feel unsafe to get well, or they've put some kind of condition on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if they believe that they can, if it's possible,
We've seen things. We've seen things happen that we couldn't have predicted, that we never would have imagined. That where people have gotten well where they shouldn't have gotten well. Where
As per the medical system.
yeah, outside the medical system, and of course, in Western medicine is fantastic, right? In the West, at taking care of acute problems, right? I mean, the technologies, oops, the technologies are so advanced that they can do incredible things. But most of the time, most people don't need drastic, expensive intervention. And most of the time, most people don't need some kind of petrochemical pharmaceutical drug to suppress some sort of a symptom. They need to figure out what the symptoms are really being caused by. And that's one of the really exciting things about this, is that we really now are understanding, I think for the first time, that all of the symptoms that occur in our lives, whether they're physical or mental or emotional, if you're diagnosed with some kind of a disease, if you can't find your soulmate, you can't make enough money, all of those things are symptoms, really. And
they're all messages from the subconscious mind, really.
Yeah. And the answers then can be found in the body code, belief code, emotion code. You can find those things. And not everyone gets well. I mean, sometimes people hang on, or they have something else they need to learn. But yeah, we've seen just about everything get better that can get better.
Absolutely.
I mean, we are mortal. Sometimes people, there's a plan for every person's life, and sometimes people die because they can't get well, and maybe it's their time.
Yeah, I had such a beautiful experience recently where a 95-year-old client walked into my practice, and she's like, "I've prepared for my funeral. All I need is to clear the emotional baggage before I go."
That's beautiful. What a
like,
great way
oh,
to look
wow.
at it.
It's like amazing.
You know, actually,
That's
I've heard
interesting.
quite a few stories
cute.
about people who have been worked on right before passing, and they just die very peacefully. It's just a beautiful way to go.
Well, over the years, we would often be called on to come and help somebody who was maybe in hospice. Maybe they were hanging on for a long time, or maybe the family often had some kind of hope that maybe it would be a dramatic recovery. But in the vast majority of cases, that doesn't happen. But what does happen is, even someone that's been hanging on for months, you go in and you clear their emotional baggage, and suddenly they're able to let go of their grip on their white knuckle grip on this world, and they're able to go and pass oftentimes within like 48 hours.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the story, I don't know if you heard about this, but in the US, there was a nursing home that had this cat. Did you hear about this one? This cat would go and it would climb up onto the bed of a person who had about 24 hours left. Somehow it knew, and when the cat would get on someone's bed, they would call the family. Okay, the end is near, get down here, every time.
Wow. And cats are supposed to be sensitive to energies, isn't it?
Yeah. Interesting, huh? Totally out of left field, but hey, thought you'd enjoy that.
That cat had a purpose.
I'm sure it did. Yeah. I mean, see, I've got clients who've taken these sessions for their driving test as well. So, you can do it for anything.
Absolutely.
All right. So, sort of, we've already answered this. Are there any specific conditions where you've seen the most significant results? I suppose it could be anything and everything.
Well, one thing really significant is that if anyone is suffering with morning sickness, boy, they just have to learn about this work, because
That's in the body code.
yeah, it's part of the body code, but it is so helpful to get rid of morning sickness.
But physical pain is 90% of the time, as you know, is being caused by emotional baggage, and the emotion code deals with that really, really well. Gosh, what else? Oh, these other things, depression, anxiety, phobias, panic attacks, eating disorders, PTSD, self-sabotage. Usually the emotion code can take care of those pretty well. The emotion code is not a cure for anything. The emotion code instead is just a way to remove the blocks that are in the body's way of being healthy, and that are in the way of you being mentally healthy as well. And so we don't promote any of the work that we do as a cure for any disease or anything.
But people do often get better.
Yeah, I mean,
because
our
the body
bodies.
is self-healing. It was designed to be.
Our bodies are really, I believe, and Jean too, that our bodies are of divine origin. And so in this world, we pick up so many blockages, so many things that interfere with our body's ability to manifest total health. When we start to get rid of those imbalances, then the body can just blossom and heal itself. And really, it's the power that heals the body. The power that created the body is the power that heals the body. We heal, our bodies are self-healing, but we are able to remove the blocks that are in the way of that with these modalities, emotion code, body code, belief code, and that's how they work.
Yeah, this reminds me of famous Sadhguru. I don't know if you've heard about Sadhguru. He's one of the spiritual people in India.
Mhm.
And he often quotes that our body doesn't come with a user manual. We just have to learn to listen to it and work with it
Yeah.
through yoga and through other practices. But I feel
So true. I agree.
this is one of the
Absolutely.
manuals we can use. All the emotion code, body code, and belief code.
Yeah.
All right. So again, at what ages can individuals start benefiting from these techniques?
Well, you know, we were in where were we? We were in Poland, I think, earlier this year, and there was a lady that was pregnant. She was about 7 months pregnant, and so she came up out of the audience, and we started muscle testing her, but asking questions of her unborn child. And we were able to find some imbalances going on. We were able to have a conversation with the subconscious mind of that unborn child and clear some things. And then we found out that the unborn child wanted, it wanted something, what was it?
Chocolate.
Blueberries or something. It wanted its mom to eat more of a certain food. And you can find that out in the body code, as you know.
Yes.
So I thought that was funny. So there's really no time limit. I mean, you can start in the womb.
Well, actually, it's been kind of a common thing for us to find that children in the womb will, or fetuses in the womb will absorb the trapped emotions of the mother. If
Yeah.
the mother is going through something at the time when they're carrying the child, it's not unusual for the child to pick up some of those energies.
Absolutely.
So, and also, you know, we inherit energies too. So at conception, you know, energies are passed to the fetus.
Yes.
So really, there is no
The earlier the better.
limit on
The earlier the
when
better,
to
yeah.
work on someone.
I mean, imagine, you know, working, and I'm sure you've got your two beautiful kids, and I'm sure you work on them.
100%.
Yeah. And that's why they're so well behaved and so
Oh.
lovely.
It's a great tool, though, for families to be able to use the emotion code with their kids.
Yeah.
Usually, it's such a quick fix, and it just is so helpful.
I
We used to
know, I
work
mean-
on our twins when they were sleeping
Yeah.
because they were so active and always running around. We could hardly catch them, but when they were asleep, that was a wonderful time to work on them.
Yeah, and the subconscious mind never sleeps. And you know, the beauty of this work is that we're tapping into that subconscious mind, which we believe is eternal and is indestructible. And even if a person is really like mentally damaged or physically damaged or in a coma or whatever, we've had experiences over the years where we found that it doesn't really matter. That subconscious mind is always intact. It's always undamaged, no matter what's going on with that individual. And so it always has the answers. And then, you know, an added benefit of this work, as you know very well, is that it can be done at any distance, really. We've tested it, and it's being used every single day by thousands of people, probably hundreds of thousands all over the world, to help other people at distances at least as great as the diameter of the Earth. Think about that. I mean, and I've often told people, you know, the first time you're using the emotion code, for example, on somebody, and they're on the other side of the planet or far, far away, and you receive, you know, you have an immediate change. They experience an immediate change in their symptoms, their pain goes from a 9 to a 0 instantly. When that happens to you, in that moment, your life's going to change because you're going to realize, wow, this actually works, it's amazing. And what's happening now is with these new understandings of quantum physics, now we know how this is actually working. We know how it's possible that energies can become entangled at these vast distances, and how one person can work on another person and act as proxy for them, and so on. So we're living in just an absolutely amazing time, and I can't think of a more exciting time really to live than right now. And part of it is because these tools are enabling us to do things that we never could have imagined even possible. So,
Absolutely. I always tell my clients it's very similar to the World Wide Web.
yeah.
We're all just connected. You just have to download information, and that's
Right.
it. You know,
Yeah, it's so simple.
We make a wireless connection with who we're going to work on, and tune into their energy, and we can work on them.
Yeah.
I think that's the easiest, like I say, it's almost like Google, you just put in a question and you get your answers.
Exactly.
Yeah. But we
So-
always ask for permission.
Of course,
That's
we know
very
that.
important.
Right.
We
Yeah.
never work on people without them knowing about it and wanting the work done.
100%. Like I get people who have relationship challenges and they're like, oh, my husband doesn't want to do a session. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't help then, like
Yeah.
if he doesn't want to.
Right.
But initially their whole focus would be, oh, husband, husband, husband. And I'm like, let's just focus on you. You're here, let's focus on you. Once you're happy, things will start changing around you as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and isn't it interesting? Don't you notice that if you work on one person in a relationship,
It's a ripple effect.
the relationship gets affected because there's this dynamic between the two. So fun. You
It
see that
does
all the
change
time.
it.
Awesome. Now, another question I had is, do you recommend a specific order for using these techniques? Like, does a person who has absolutely no idea about this work, can they do belief code, or they have to go emotion code, heart wall clearing, body code, and then belief code?
Well, we have our 3 levels of certification, right? The emotion code is foundational energy medicine, and it's easy, but we have our certification training if you want to do it for a living, or if you really want to master it and really own it. That's level 1. That's the foundation. Body code certification then becomes level 2. And if you're good at the emotion code and you're good at the body code, that opens the door for you to become certified in level 3, and that's the belief code. You've got to be good at those first 2 to be able to do the belief code, because a negative belief system never exists, in our experience, by itself. There are always things plugged into it. Things in the body code, things in the emotion code, trapped emotions, traumas and things that you have to also release and unplug, so that you're unplugging the power that is flowing into that belief system. If you don't do that, then you might clear that system and it might just get recreated the next day. So
But one thing, if someone's in a lot of pain and they really want to work on that pain, we
Yeah.
recommend to go there first.
put out that
And
fire.
then, if they're not really in pain, the first place we would recommend for people to go is to see if they have a heart wall.
Yeah.
Because, if you work on that heart wall, so many other things correct automatically, and it just changes your life to have your heart wall cleared. It's a beautiful thing.
Back when we had our practice, what I used to do with people is when they would come in, I would test all the organs and chakras and meridians and all the glands, and just see how balanced everything was. And it was not unusual back in those days for me to find somebody that had sometimes every organ and every gland was like short-circuited, imbalanced. And most of the meridians and glands. And sometimes with those people, I would just do one thing. I would work on them, maybe 2-3 sessions, just to clear the heart wall, nothing else. Then I would retest all those things and find inevitably that 80% of all those things, all those organs and glands and meridians and chakras would now be balanced. It was an amazing thing, but it just taught me and Jean how powerful it is when you clear someone's heart wall. It has an effect on the entire body.
Absolutely.
The heart's a very powerful organ.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
I had a client who came with a lot of heaviness in her heart, and like she would struggle to breathe. And she's like, I've done all the steroid buffers, I've gone to as many allergy specialists, I just can't get rid of this for the last couple of years. And we just clear the heart wall and she starts breathing normally.
Yeah, it was gone.
Okay, that worked. All right. Some clients notice recurring life patterns every 7 to 10 years. When you clear the heart wall, I tend to check on their ages, and I've noticed that, they would have at 7, 17, 27, 37 kind of thing.
We've seen that a lot too.
Yeah, so life patterns every 7 to 10 years, like relationship breakdowns, health challenges, or even losing money. If unresolved, could trapped emotions contribute to these repeating cycles?
Oh gosh,
Or
yes.
another way, like if you get rid of your heart wall or other imbalances, do you reckon when they come to the next decade, they will not experience the same things?
Absolutely. Because our emotional baggage drives a lot of our behavior, but it also attracts things into our lives often that we don't really want. In other words, let's say that you have a trapped emotion of betrayal. Maybe you've got a couple of them. What's going to happen is those energies that are in your body are radiating their frequency and their energy and their vibration out into the world. And so what that's going to do is it's going to tend to attract people into your life that will tend to create that actual experience for you, which is a crazy thing, but that's how it goes. If you've got a heart wall, especially, it's going to be a lot harder for you to create the life that you want. And so the subconscious mind is so powerful. If you think about it, if this hand represents your conscious mind and you want to go that direction, but if your subconscious mind wants to go that way, it's going to pull your conscious mind along. In other words, let's say you're headed for your goal, but your subconscious says, no, you're not worthy of that goal, or you're not good enough to have that goal. You may achieve that goal temporarily, but then the subconscious will pull you away from it. And this is the kind of thing where we see people that continue to choose the wrong kind of mate, for example. And they can't figure out, why do they attract this? Or people who achieve success and then lose it, and achieve it again and then lose it, because they've got this baggage within them that is just making the subconscious mind not okay with being in that kind of situation. Or not being with someone who actually loves you and takes care of you because you're not good enough for that, or whatever it is. And so the future, we believe, of human development is releasing all these imbalances, the emotional baggage, the heart wall, even the beliefs, and aligning the subconscious mind with the conscious mind, because that's really where the power begins to flow, when life really starts to work for you, when the subconscious is actually okay with you achieving whatever goal it is you're after. That's the future. There's nothing more powerful than that. And if you think about it, so many people all over the world spend so much money going to all kinds of trainings and things, trying to create the life they want, trying to find love, trying to really create the life they're capable of, when their subconscious mind might be taking them in a totally different direction all the time. And so they work all their life and can't figure out why it's so hard, but it's because of this kind of invisible influence on them, their emotional baggage, the beliefs, the traumas and things, and getting rid of that stuff can just make it so much easier, as I think you have learned.
Absolutely, and this reminds me of the analogy of the iceberg you give in the Emotion Code book. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's very powerful when we release all these baggages. All right, now let's dive deeper and explore the potential of this work. So personally, I am from a clinical research background. I've worked in the field of clinical trials for 15 years before, permanently shifting to this healing art. Now, I want to understand, do you have any planned clinical trials to test the efficacy of these modalities or techniques?
We do. We have a study going on right now in Japan where we're studying morning sickness. And we're getting really statistically significant results, for example, where people are, we're seeing like, what would you call that, like a 60% improvement in people's symptoms. And that's just one area. We have some other areas of study. We're hoping to start a study soon on the heart wall and relationships, where when the heart wall is cleared, actually this study is ongoing currently, where when the heart wall is cleared, after 6 months, then a year, we're going to be retesting people to see if they're now in a relationship, to see if they've actually found love. Another study that we want to do is about inheritance, animal inheritance. We know that animals, for example, will inherit emotional energy from a parent that will then interfere with their ability to do certain things. And Western medicine doesn't understand how this happens, but it's a quantum phenomenon, and we believe that we can show some really very exciting results working with animals and releasing emotional baggage that they've picked up from whatever they've experienced, in the lab, and then releasing that baggage and then seeing that emotional energy change. Mm-hmm. Yes. So these are a number of things that we're looking at right now. Yeah, we're very excited.
So that actually reminds me of one of the studies that were conducted in mice where they saw the transgenerational trauma because, they smell some flower and, and a bell
I think it was
rang or
rose
something-
petals, and
something
they
like
they were shocked
an electric shock.
at the same time they
yes.
smelled that scent. Yeah.
So your premise is that if we reverse that emotional trauma, they probably should not feel that fear?
Yeah, because what happens is in that study, what they did is they would blow in the scent of cherry blossom. It was cherry blossom. That's what it was.
Right.
When they would shock these rodents, and after a few times, if they smelled cherry blossom, they'd have a fear reaction. Then they found that the offspring would share that. They'd have the same reaction, even though they'd never smelled cherry blossom. The first time they smelled it, they'd have a fear reaction, which isn't really normal. Yeah. So how was that being passed down?
And it went 14 generations deep, which is really something.
Strong. Yes.
So yeah, our idea there and our theory is that if we release the trapped emotional energy from a group of these rodents, that we won't see that fear reaction being reproducible in their offspring, and probably also in themselves. And so we'll have a control group. So we'll have these two groups, and that's a study that we're really very excited about doing.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, it
that
really
would
is.
Prove a lot of things with regards to these modalities.
Exactly right.
Especially, I remember you mentioning about this lady who saw all the future generations on the stage. So,
oh, right.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
It would prove that as well. All right. Now, having worked with over 1,000 clients, I often find that most of the issues stem from either workplace stress or school, being bullied at school as a child. Mm-hmm. Is there a way to bring this support, bring this work into schools and workplaces to support these institutions?
Well, yes. In fact, very shortly we hope to be starting the creation of a children's curriculum that will be translatable, that will be able to get into schools all over the world, so kids can start learning at very young ages how to work with their emotions, how to release trapped emotions. Yeah. So we're actually looking at coming up with a chart for kids that just consists of emoticons, right? That's what you call those, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, emoticons.
Rather than words that they don't
Smiley
understand.
faces.
Yeah, exactly. Just faces. How do you feel right now? Or how do you feel when you think about, what happened to your dad or whatever? And then they can pick one and then release that. And so, we're very, very excited about that. And that's something that is a project that we're going to be starting very soon.
And I think children will gain emotional intelligence just from having something like this presented to them.
Yeah.
It will help them to learn coping skills, to have an opportunity to talk about it.
Well, there are many schools
themselves.
around the world, I think, that are teaching about emotional intelligence. In the U.S., it's kind of something that's in every curriculum for kids. But the missing piece is that, hopefully with this work, we're going to teach them how to actually remove that emotional baggage and then be able to move on. And so, we're very excited about that.
Very exciting. I mean, the way I see it is like nip it in the bud, why bring it 21 years later?
Exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And the same for corporate wellness as well. Do you think there is a way to incorporate these things in corporate wellness?
Well, if it were incorporated, I know that companies would see a significant increase in the productivity at the office, and people wouldn't get sick as often.
Yeah.
Everyone would be happier. They would cooperate more. It would just be better for everybody all around.
Well, absolutely. And
I don't
imagine
know how it couldn't be that way.
Yes, exactly. And imagine having a team, right, at work, and you're working on a certain project. Imagine having everybody on that team tested and evaluated and remove their heart walls, remove their emotional baggage, the creativity of that team then together. Well, we've seen it happen in our own company, and it's very exciting actually, and there's a huge need, we think, around the world.
Absolutely, same here. All right, and are there any plans to integrate these techniques into hospitals or trauma recovery centers, or is that something you're doing in
Oddly
US?
enough,
We just were able to introduce this work into a huge hospital in Japan.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're very excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah, we did our first event in Japan last year, and we've had some Zoom meetings with some very high-level doctors over there that have some
And in Taipei, Taiwan as well.
yeah, and yeah. So yes, the answer is we think it's probably going to happen in Japan first. I mean, there are private hospitals. For example, in Mexico, there's a center called the Cenevive Center, and it's one of the top alternative cancer places in the world. But it's a private hospital. The hospital that we met with their staff. It's in Gifu Prefecture in Japan. They're very, very excited about this work. It's kind of their hospital is 500 beds. It's kind of a private / public hospital, and so they are experimenting with a lot of different things that some hospitals aren't doing. But we think it's probably going to happen in Japan first, because the U.S. is not nearly as open. Yeah, the pharmaceutical companies have kind of a stranglehold on Western medicine, and so it's not that way in some other countries, especially Japan. So
At least it's a start, and
Yes.
I'm sure it'll spread soon.
it will.
All right, let's talk about some future plans for Discover Healing. Are there any exciting new developments or any other future codes happening?
Well, of course, we have our 4th level of certification.
Oh, wow.
That we're not going to put a time frame on that one, but that will be called Healing Mastery.
Probably.
And
we don't even
probably
know.
that's the working title for it now. But our plan right now, before we come out with that one, is probably to come up with a teacher certification program, so that we can train people to teach this work around the world, and then we can have seminars going on all over the world, because we feel like Jean and I travel and we do seminars, and we've got some seminars going on a regular basis, for example, in Germany. And
We have a few staff members that are teaching for us, but we could use more.
yeah.
Yeah, most
So,
definitely.
so we're very excited to see this work really blow up and affect the whole world. And we know that's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. But we're hoping to create some things to speed up that process.
Amazing, yeah. I mean, I do have a lot of my clients say, oh, we want to learn from you, and I direct them to the Discover Healing website, but I obviously support them through their journey. So it would be nice if, the practitioners can become, it's like, train the trainer kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be the next thing.
Awesome.
We appreciate what you're doing, by the way, to
Yeah.
support people here. That's wonderful.
We really do. Thank you.
No,
Yeah.
it's been an honor to help them through their journey. I felt very lonely, when I was doing it all by myself. The student advisors are amazing, but there's always a time zone difference, and there's not like
Right.
one-on-one sort of calls or anything you can have with them. So it's good to
Well,
have that
especially
global
being
support.
here where the time zone is
Correct.
so opposite.
Yes.
Well, we do have a practitioner now who is she's a student advisor now of ours in Australia.
Okay.
Yeah, and so people that are in this part of the world, she's actually Japanese and lives here, but speaks perfect English and Japanese, and so she's officially our student advisor for Japanese, but also for people that are in this part of the world. So she'll be on the same time zone as them. Her name is Kaya.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, she's
great.
awesome.
I've reached out to Discover Healing for that as well. We'll see when that works out.
Yeah.
All right. So any final messages for those interested in starting their journey with these energy healing modalities? Where's the best place to start?
Well, probably the easiest thing to do is get a copy of the Emotion Code book, read it, play with it, try it out, and if you try it out on some people, you're probably going to find out that this actually does work. And then if you're interested, you can join our certification program. Like I said, we've got almost 14,000 people certified now in about 80 plus countries around the world. And
And it isn't nearly enough to serve all the people on the planet.
Yeah, the billions.
no.
Yes. And that's
So-
why, I love collaborating with other practitioners, because there's just so much work to be done,
Oh.
one person at a
Yeah.
time.
Right.
But yeah, there's many
Right.
people out there who need a lot of healing.
Yeah, we really need millions of practitioners, really. Because if you think about how many people need this work, everybody needs it. Everybody's got emotional baggage, for example.
It's
that's
a great way to
disrupting
make
their
a
life.
living. It's a great way to supplement your income if you have a different kind of a job. It's a great way to find purpose in your life. It's just a great thing to do for humanity. Everyone feels so good about it when they get involved.
Absolutely. It's very fulfilling.
Yes, it is.
All right, as we close, I want to share a heartfelt thank you to Dr. Brad and Jean for sharing their incredible insights and their dedication to empowering people worldwide. Remember, time alone doesn't heal, taking action does. So if you're ready to unlock your potential and rediscover your true self, let's take this journey together.
Thank you, Harsiddhi.
Thank you,
Sounds
Maulik.
good.